We are live, and it is Thursday, August the 31st, last day of August, first day of the full college football season. Week 1 officially starts tonight on Thursday. If you don't acknowledge Week 0, and why should you, Week 1 is here. We got the next 5 days and nights of college football, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, all the way through Labor Day weekend. We're going to break it down for you here on WagerTalk Today, including prime time. Colorado TCU with Bryan Power in just a moment. We also have Andrew McInnis on the show today as well. But we're going to start things off with the prop master, Andy Lang, and a little NFL football as well. He also does UFC and multiple sports. Teddy Covers, my co-host. Oh, by the way, I'm Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. I got so excited I forgot to mention the Prez wasn't here today. Teddy, great show today on Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Let's get into it right now with Mr. Andy Lang and talk a little NFL Week 1 action. We have the Seattle Seahawks as home favorites against the LA Rams. Seattle team total is something that intrigues you, Mr. Lang. 26.5, the prevailing number. Do we expect the Seahawks to score points in bunches, or do we expect the Rams defense to be able to get some stops?
Oh, man, I don't expect the Rams to stop much of anything this season. Preseason's been a disaster for them, and I like the Seahawks team total over 26.5. Love that right now you can grab it just under 27. I think they get 4 touchdowns in this one. I mean, any metric, any website that just got this poor Rams defense ranked as a bottom 3 team. The turnover is insane. I read a great stat. The website is escaping me. They had 10 defensive players that played 400 snaps last year, and only 3 of them are coming back. They have young guys all over the place. It's going to take a long time for them to gel. We don't even know if some of these guys are good. Their secondary is going to probably get torched early and often. Their defensive line, listen, we know it's completely dependent on Mr. Donald. This is a guy that almost retired. He's coming off of ankle surgery. And he gave, in my opinion, the kiss of death quote. I've never been in better shape in my entire life. It's like, well, you almost retired and you're coming off an ankle surgery. I could think of other years where you might have been in better shape. So I like the Seahawks offense early. They've got a healthy DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Geno Smith, and Kenneth Walker. I know these guys are going to be healthy going into Week 1. Not really sure if they're going to be healthy later on in the season. So this is a great spot. I know it's preseason. You don't want to take too much into preseason, but my gosh, the Rams have given up 34, 34, and 41 points in their 3 preseason games. So even though it may be backups, these backups are not very good. They're getting torched by the other team's backups. I like the Seahawks to score a lot of points in this game. Give me the over team total, 26.5.
So this is a fascinating game for me, Andy. And I think the most fascinating part about it is that the sharp money has not gone in the direction that I thought it would. All the sharp money here is playing the Rams, and we've seen plenty of sharp money on the under for this ball game, where, I thought this line would be on a freight train out to 7, and instead it's come back 5.5, down to 5, down to 4.5. I'm seeing 4s out there right now with some leading indicator books, which tells us that the sharp money thinks either Seattle's offense isn't going to work, or the Rams offense is going to be better than we think it is, or some semblance of that. Why do you think the money is showing for LA? I've seen the same preseason you have. I've read the same quotes you have. It doesn't sound like things are going well in terms of preparation for this season for the Rams, and yet sharp money seems to think something, right?
Well, I think what's going on here is I think people realize that the Rams offense is healthy at this point. You're going into Week 1. They're healthy. Stafford seems to be over the elbow issue. Cooper Kupp is going to play. He's healthy. Cam Akers looks healthy, but there's no guarantee that these guys are going to stay healthy throughout the course of the season. So right now, I think most people might be looking at the Rams going, well, they were rattled with injuries last year. And yeah, that was last year. So maybe the offense can go toe-to-toe with Seattle. Seattle's defense is not, fantastic. And obviously the hole for the Seattle Seahawks is their offensive line. I'm just not sure the Rams are going to be able to put much pressure on Geno Smith. Not sure they're going to be able to stop the run. So I could absolutely see a lot of scoring in this game. And if you think the Rams offense can put up points against Seattle, obviously you're going to want the plus money on this one. But for me, I'm just focusing on the big advantage that Seattle's offense is going to have. I want that Seattle offense against the Rams defense. So that's why I'm focusing on 26.5 team total.
Andy Lang, the prop master. And if you like that week one breakdown, stay tuned later in the show. We got Andrew McInnis coming on to talk another week one NFL game along with some Canadian football. It's Prez free, but it's not Canadian free today on Thursday. Andrew will be here a little bit later. And also, don't forget about college football. It starts tonight, the next 5 days and nights. Bryan Power on in a few moments to talk a couple college football games. And speaking of the Rams, guys, we did a lot of college football preview videos all week here on WagerTalk TV. Check them out. One of the games I did was Ball State, Kentucky. And Kentucky's got their OC back. He left for 1 year to go to the Rams last year, Liam Cohen, and now he is back at Kentucky. And I mentioned how I think that could affect the game and a little bit of a money-making opportunity. So check out those college football previews here as well on WagerTalk TV. Hit like, hit subscribe, and hit that bell for instant alerts when they go live, including Teddy Cover's opening line report from earlier this week as well. All right, Andrew, Andy. We got Andy. We got Andrew. My goodness. We got Andy Lang right now, the prop master. And Andy, I called you the prop master. You just gave us an NFL game. You're going to give us a baseball play in a moment. But don't forget about UFC. Fight Night 226. We got Edwards against Cornhole. You don't handicap Cornhole, but you might one day. I know you do all the other sports. Right now we're doing Edwards and Cornhole. Tell us about this UFC event.
Yeah, so this event is UFC Paris, and it starts at noon Eastern, so make sure you get all your bets in. Don't wait until Saturday afternoon because odds are your fight has already started. So when they go over to Paris and they go to some of these other countries, you'll see some local fighters get some fights that they normally wouldn't get. And this Nora Cornell, I'm sure she's a nice person, but she's not a UFC caliber fighter. The eye test, she's slow. She does not have very much power on her punches. She has fought absolute tomato cans. And Jocelyn Edwards is not lighting the world on fire these days in the UFC. But she is a UFC caliber fighter. She has won 3 in a row. They've all been to decision. Jocelyn Edwards is going to be the much better striker. She throws in volume. 2 of her last 3 fights, she's landed over 100 significant strikes. Her opponent, Nora Cornell, is very low volume. She's got a lot of wins on her record, but they're against really bad opponents. Like her last fight, she threw this little front leg kick, and the opponent's knee blew out. So early first round, she gets credited with an early first round KO, even though, it was because of an opponent injury. I've done the film on this one. Jocelyn Edwards is going to be faster, stronger, more volume striking, and you're getting an amazing price at minus 115. But Nora Cornell, this will probably be her first and only UFC fight, as I expect her to lose kind of decisively. But it's a Jocelyn Edwards fight, so it'll probably go the distance. So look at Edwards and maybe Edwards by decision.
So Cornell been fighting cupcakes. Andrew Lang says, maybe look at Edwards and UFC on Saturday night. Let's talk a little MLB for today. The LA Dodgers, Max Muncy. You like him under 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Get a plus price for doing that, plus 130 in several locations. Guy's been in decent form. What don't you like about him tonight?
Well, we had a very similar situation yesterday with Milwaukee Brewers' Carlos Santana, who'd been on the hottest streak of the season. And we were like, he's going to regress back. So sure enough, he went under. And we get the exact same situation here with Mac Muncy. You can take his under 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs at plus 130. He's gone over this total in 9 straight games. This is by far his best stretch of the season. But regression is coming. This guy's hitting 208 this season. He's only hitting 233 against righties. He's facing Strider today. He's faced Strider 6 times before. He has no hits, 2 strikeouts. Muncy has gone over this prop in 9 straight games. Before this, his best consecutive games with a hit streak was 5. So he's almost doubled this up. There is no way that this hitter with these stats is going to keep ripping off these, the streak is not going to continue. He's not going to keep ripping off all these hits, these runs, and RBIs. It's been his best streak of the season. We're getting plus money on him kind of coming back to earth. So I expect him to regress sooner rather than later. I think today's a great spot, and you're getting a beautiful price on an under. I know he's on a dynamic offense. I know the Dodgers can put up a lot of runs, but for this price on a 208 hitter, yeah, give me the under today.
Andy, it's so funny you mentioned him hitting 208 because I was watching the Dodger game the other night. I believe it was Tuesday, either Monday or Tuesday when they were playing the D-backs. And they started off with a home run, and the 2-hitter Freeman hits one out against one of the best pitchers in baseball. And then Muncy comes up fourth, and they show him batting an even 200 for the season. I even said to my son, I go, how can a four-hitter on one of the best hitting teams in the league be batting 200? And he hits one out. So two of the first four hit him out. But now he's up to 208. But I like where you're going with this because Muncy's a guy that's on my radar as well. People don't realize how bad his batting average has been this year on a really good batting team. All right, great stuff, Andy. As always, the prop master. He covered NFL, MLB, and UFC. And he also covers multiple sports, just not cornhole quite yet. Andy, tell us a promo we can use this weekend over at WagerTalk.com.
If you're looking for the sport that I'm running really great in, it is UFC. We've got a 2-pack up. We've hit 4 bets in a row. We hit one on Dana White Contender Series last week, one in PFL, one in UFC. And we did it again Tuesday night with another winner on Dana White Contender Series. So we have 2 UFC plays. That is a sport that I'm probably running the best in. You can get an all-access pass for the weekend, but really, you're looking for the sport I'm running best in, it's UFC. So go grab that over at WagerTalk.com, UFC 2-pack.
What a great way to diversify your portfolio. We got all this football this week, but UFC cash is just as green. And once again, they're over in Paris. As Andy mentioned, starts early at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. When those college football games kick off, Teddy, at noon Eastern Saturday, there'll be UFC fights starting as well. It's a great way to diversify your bankroll. By the way, it was Zach Gallen on Monday night, the game I was referencing. He gave up 6 earned run, 9 hits in just 5 innings. What an all-star starter, Cy Young candidate, one of his worst starts of the season. Even Max Muncy batting 200 got to him on Monday night. All right, Teddy, let's talk some football. It is officially here. Week 0 is a little bit of a tease. There's no preseason in college football. I think we could consider week 0 basically the preseason. But we got the real deal here now with week 1. 5 straight days and nights starting tonight on August 31st. Are you excited, Teddy? What's your feeling when football starts? For me, it's the summer's over. The summer's over, football's here.
So every night before I go to bed, I put in what I'm going to talk about the next day on Wager Talk Today. And I talk about what I'm going to talk and what bettors learn, and I write down the game I'm going to use for my big game breakdown segment. And I take my notes. And last night, what I wrote down for, the little blurb for what bettors learned is, quote, that tingly feeling of football season / do what you love. One of the reasons I took time off this summer was I felt burnt out. I wasn't loving my job. And the reason you do this, the reason we all do this, because we love it. All right. And frankly, I was burned out. I feel like a new man. That tingly feeling is back. We bet on sports for lots of reasons. The excitement, the passion, it's fun for sure. We like the grind. We like the capping. We love it when a game plays out exactly like we thought it would. A pick 6 when you need it in the fourth quarter can be a truly magical experience. And sometimes sports betting sucks too. The beats, the frustration, whatever it is, there are ups and downs, there's highs and lows. But more than not, the reason you're here, the reason I'm here, is that this is actually an activity we like to do, that we love to do. There's passion behind it. It's not just grinding. And that's what makes this particular endeavor fulfilling, for this bettor at least. Well, that and profitability. So yeah, you wake up last night, I didn't sleep that well. I had that tingly feeling of football season. And right now, I'm doing what I love. We'll be doing it all football season long right here on Wager Talk Today. That's what I learned, Steve. What about you?
What I learned just now is you're lucky Prez is not guest hosting because he'd be going on for the next 5 minutes about you not sleeping well last night because you had a tingly feeling. So my goodness, boy, did you catch a break using the What Bettors Learned Today with me as the guest host. I've been doing this since 1996. I started August of 96. I became a full-time professional capper. That's 27 years, but that means it's my 28th football season, and it's more than half my life, and you basically are in the same boat as well. So it's really remarkable. Like you said, we do it because we love it, but it's also part of our life, and college football is king. NFL is king when it comes to sports betting. But I will say, Teddy, it's become kind of routine for me now. It's not like it was in the 90s when it was the first, second, or third season. It's yet another football season. It's my 28th in a row here, and we'll get ready into it. And one thing I'll say to the new bettors out there, because I know we have a ton of new bettors that have been doing it a lot less than myself and Teddy covers, is put it in perspective, right? We always preach money management. We preach bankrolls. We talk about this during the Super Bowl, right? Don't play 100 props and blow your whole bankroll. Well, same thing at the start of any sports season. Use games you like. If you play 4 or 5 games a week, you play 4 or 5 games this week. You don't play 10 or 12 because you have a bigger bankroll at the start. So put it in perspective, money management is king. And one other tip real quick, we've talked about this, have multiple outs, have 2, 3, 4, 5 sports books. You need 2 at a minimum. You shouldn't be doing this unless you have 2, really need at least 3. And you'll get an extra half point and you'll win extra games this year and you'll make more money. And that doesn't even involve handicap. And so once again, money management, shop for line value. And as Teddy said, enjoy it because this is meant to be fun and also make you a little extra money along the way. And if you're needing a little help with the handicapping, check out WagerTalk TV, hit subscribe and hit that bell here for instant alerts. Lots of great videos out there. Teddy's going to have a college football big game breakdown a little bit later for Saturday in just a moment. But now we're going to talk some college football with Bryan Power. And I mentioned those standalone videos. Teddy did some, myself, Steve Merrill did some, and Bryan Power, you did some as well. Some great college football info here on the channel. But a game I have personally not talked about this week is perhaps the most fascinating game on the card, and that's prime time. Deion Sanders going from Jackson State to Colorado. And not only is it his debut, they've got no game film on him. They don't know what to expect. A team that went 1-11 last year against a team that was maybe the biggest overachiever in all of college football in TCU. So these are 2 fun teams to talk about, Brian. How are you attacking this game on Saturday?
Yeah, let's see if I can get the tingly feeling going for everybody here. As you mentioned, Steve, it is the marquee game of the weekend. And it's pretty rare that a game with a near 3 touchdown spread would be talked about as the marquee game of the weekend, right? But as you mentioned, Steve, so eloquently, it is Coach Prime's debut at Colorado. And you've got on the other sideline the team that was in the national championship game last year, TCU. I'm sure over the course of the summer, you guys have seen the notes here on the public money that has come in on Colorado, right? In the various markets, whether it's the win total. This game, the lines trickled down a little bit, under 3 touchdowns. I got to say, for me personally, the Buffaloes are probably going to be a fade, at least early on. It's rare that I would be confident in a team finishing with an exact record, but I'm very convinced Colorado's going 3-9 this year. We can all jot that down and maybe make fun of me in December, but it just feels like the right record for Colorado. Bottom line is, I think Deion's got his work cut out for him here, guys. I don't need to tell you, this is unprecedented roster turnover in Boulder. Not just among starters, but the 2 deep. So many people transferring out of the program, so many people transferring into the program. But you talk about TCU being the biggest overachiever last year, Steve. Teddy, I'm sure you remember this. I was one of the many who seemingly like every other week would come on this show last year and say, I'm a little skeptical of TCU. So I don't really want to rush and lay the points with them in this spot either. So I think the best way to attack, this hasn't officially made my card yet, but I know a lot of people are interested in this game. And the best way to attack it is TCU over the team total. Now it's high. 41.5 is what DraftKings has it at. But I think this Colorado defense, guys, is going to be absolutely atrocious early on. Last year, they gave up 38 to TCU at home. They have just 3 starters back. I talked about how there's a lot of new faces in the 2 deep. And guys, I don't think the Colorado offense will be helping the Colorado defense too much this year. They hire Sean Lewis, who was the Kent State head coach, the author of the Flash Fast offense. Colorado's going to be playing up-tempo. They're not going to have the ball a lot. They're going to have a low time of possession. And I think at the end of games, this Colorado defense will start to wilt, which is important here because does Sonny Dykes look to stick it to Deion in front of a national television audience? Perhaps he does. Now, I know there's no Max Duggan for the Horned Frogs, but remember, Chandler Morris was set to be the starter going into last year before he got hurt against Colorado. So I think TCU puts up a lot of points here in what is a game that I know a lot of people have interest in.
So, Brian, I'm going to ask you a follow-up in 3 parts. And the first 2 are simply yes or no questions. Is Colorado better than they were last year when they went 1-11?
Yes.
Is TCU worse than they were last year when they played for the national title?
Yes.
So if we have one team whose arrow's pointed up and one team whose arrow's pointed down, why on opening day do we want to lay points, lay 3 touchdowns with the team whose arrow's pointed down over the team whose arrow's pointed up? Just conceptually, why do we want to do that?
99% of the time, I would be in complete agreement. But let's talk about where the arrow's pointing up from and where the arrow's pointing down from. One team was in the national title game last year. The other team was 1-11, and I think that win was in overtime. I should have jotted that down. But I regardless, they won 1 game last year. You've got a ton of new talent with this Colorado team. Yes, eventually Deion's going to get this. Like I said, they're going to win more games this year. But they're like a 3-win football team playing a team that was in the national championship. I think there's going to be some growing pains early on in Boulder for Coach Prime.
Yeah, and by the way, if you look at Mark Lawrence's great playbook annual, I recommend everybody go out there and get Mark's playbook annual. He's got an returning efficiency rating for offense and defense. TCU's 123rd, Colorado 125. So there's almost no difference in the experience coming back on offense between these two teams. I'm quickly pulling up the Sagrigans here, guys, and give me a second because I'm trying to find Colorado. They're so far down the list. I'm trying to see what the spread. What do you think the spread would have been, Teddy, last year? I know I'm kind of just throwing that at you, but that's another way to look at the difference, obviously. It wouldn't have been just 21.5. I mean, where do you think this number would have been? Or if you want, we can go to the next game and pull it up.
Guys, 2-6 against the number. That includes an outright loss at where? Colorado last year. Colorado's only win, like we talked about in the previous segment. There's a new offensive coordinator who I'm not in love with, a new quarterback. I don't think the play is going to be that great under center. Cal was not particularly strong on defense either. Auburn coming to visit next week as well. That's something that I always look at in my college football handicapping. Is there a bigger game on deck? The players and staff may be eyeing Auburn a little bit more than they are North Texas. But as far as North Texas is concerned, guys, you know they're going to be fired up. Getting a Pac-12 team here in Denton. I was a little surprised Seth Luttrell was let go, but he was 0-7 in conference championships and bowl games. That tends to cut your tenure short. Eric Morris is the new head coach. Cupboard's not bare. 15 returning starters. Great set of receivers. They bring in a veteran transfer at quarterback, Chandler Rogers. And we know Morris is going to play fast. At least he's going to try to. He was the head coach at Incarnate Word, OC at Washington State. Washington State played Cal last year. What did Washington State's offense do? Morris's offense, 415 total yards. It was a 28-9 win. It's going to be a hot Saturday afternoon in Denton, as they always are this time of year. This is the Mean Green's only home game until September 30th. I made the line closer to a field goal. This is a live dog, guys. I'm taking the points with North Texas.
So let me ask you this, though. We are talking about a Pac-12 team, all right, against a team that just fired what I thought was a successful head coach and is now embarking with new systems and new quarterback. And it's not like North Texas is exactly the same team as we saw them last year. There have been a lot of offseason changes. If you ask me which of these two programs has better continuity from last year to this year, I'm going to say it would be the Cal Bears. So you're laying less than a touchdown with a team that is from the better conference. I'm pretty sure they're the better team. Is this a situational spot that you're worried about Auburn, or is this the heat, or is this you think North Texas can maul Cal in the trenches? Which of the three stands out?
Just from a sheer numbers perspective, my power rankings, I just don't think Cal should be this big of a road favorite. Really gets. I mean, you talk about the history. Yes, they are from a Power 5 conference, but sort of in name only. I mean, where does Cal rank in the pantheon of Power 5 teams? I suppose is the way I look at it. I mean, they're not as bad as say Stanford, obviously, but I just don't think that on the road they're 6.5 points better than North Texas. I mean, North Texas, I don't think is your average Group of 5 team, and I think Cal's obviously a below average Power 5 team, kind of like what we talked about in the last game, Teddy. Yes, the arrow's pointing up in Colorado. Yes, the arrow's pointing down in TCU, but you have to consider kind of the starting point with that. I just don't think Cal deserves to be this large of a road favorite, quite frankly, against anybody. Again, last year, lost to Colorado. Colorado, how many other games did they win last year? None.
It's Bryan Power. If you like what you heard in college football breakdown from Bryan, check out WagerTalk TV. He's got numerous breakdowns on other games as well here, as does myself, Steve Merrill, and Teddy covers tons of college football info. And by the way, guys, at least look at the Sagrigans last year. Teddy, spot on. About 34 to 35 point home favorite TCU would have been over Colorado. So you're talking about a 2-touchdown adjustment lower. As you know, they are a little bit better, TCU a little bit weaker. But is that too much, though? So it'll be very interesting to find out. That game goes early, by the way, at noon Eastern on Fox. And then, of course, you've got Cal North Texas as well on Saturday from Bryan Power. And Bryan, as you mentioned in your standalone videos, a great 7-day all sports, all access promo for you for just $59. Tell people how they can get that.
Yeah, every play for 7 days, $59. You got to make sure you use the coupon code BP7. That will get you all of my college football picks for the weekend, Thursday through Monday. MLB, soccer, get you all of it. Right now, if you just want the college football, I got 4 best bets up for $29, but by far the best value is to get all 7 days for $59. Once again, that is coupon code BP7. We started college football last year red hot. Tough week 0, but we're bouncing back this week. Like I said, 4 best bets already up, more to come.
Bryan Power, WagerTalk.com. And I mentioned the standalone videos for college football. Brian did some, Teddy did some, and I did some as well, Teddy. And one of the games I did was actually Ball State, Kentucky. And you're going to use that as your big game breakdown here. So I'm very interested to hear what you have to say on this. I also use this as a free play in the College Football Today show on Tuesday. And don't forget about the College Football Show Tuesday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern here on Wager Talk TV. Additional game breakdowns and free plays as well. So, Teddy, get right to us. Give us a little big game breakdown here for Thursday.
Sure, it is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk a little Saturday college football action, SEC style. Looking at the Wager Talk live odds screen right now. This is 9 a.m. kickoff here in Vegas, noon for you back east. So it's an early start game on Saturday. Kentucky minus 26 against Ball State. Let's call the total 49 for this one. Basically, we've seen two-way action on the side. We've seen a little bit of over money, not a lot. And I'm looking at the Kentucky side. I want to lay it. I'm laying if I'm playing. Look, Mark Stoops, an excellent track record for having his team ready to go in week one. Last year, Miami O, minus 15. They won 37-13. In 2021, they're minus 31 against Louisiana Monroe. They win that game by 35. I don't count anything from 2020. In 2019, Toledo, they were minus 9. They won that game by 2 touchdowns. So they've shown the ability in week one to take care of business in recent years. I don't expect this to be any different, especially with there's a sense of urgency in Lexington. Kentucky's coming off a relatively disappointing season. Remember, they started 4-0 and then lost 6 of their last 9. So there's urgency from the get-go. They got a senior transfer QB, Devin Leary from NC State. They have an offensive line that returns 125 career starts. I think Kentucky's going to score early and often against a Ball State defense. Look what they've done when they've tried to leave town and step up in class. They allowed 59 to Tennessee on opening day last year. The year before, 44 to Penn State, 45 to Wyoming in their first 2 road games. And it's certainly worth noting that the Cardinals, they're not covering a lot of point spreads in defeat. They're not a team that hangs around under Mike New. They're just 2-15 against the spread. Their last 17 straight-up losses dating back to 2019. I don't love the trajectory of this ball program, and Kentucky is one of those not sexy favorites that I tend to look for in week one. Like I said, if I'm playing, I'm laying. Lay the points with the Wildcats. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Yeah, Teddy, it's a game I've been following all week as well, of course. And as you mentioned, that total has been jumping around. It was 48.5 on Monday, went up to 49.5. I even saw some 50s pop yesterday, and now it's back down to 49. What's your take on that? It's kind of interesting to see something like that midweek on a lesser tier game like this.
That means there are 2 groups fighting it out over this game. One group liked over, one group liked under, and that's why whenever you see two-way action with the lines moving one way and like legitimately moving across the board one way, and then legitimately moving across the board back the other way, just means 2 groups are fighting it out. Or it also could mean that one group was trying to give a head fake. We talked about head fakes, send the market moving in the wrong direction, and the bigger bets are coming the other way. That happens too. But it just means difference opinions among big bettors. Not like every wise guy is like, oh yeah, well, let's have a wise guy conference and we're all going to talk about who we're going to play this week. It doesn't work that way.
The wise guy conference would be fun to sit in. That would be a fun conference to attend, though. Indeed. Yeah, it's always fun to watch these live moves.
You used to come to Tuesday group. You've been to a couple of Tuesday group meetings,
I was about to say that. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking as well.
I would go in on Tuesdays and I would know where the line was going to move after we left the meeting. And I'm like, we better bet this now. We better release this right now because you get that. So, but that was, again, it's outdated now. It's, a decade or 2 old. But yeah, Tuesday group was a wise guy conference. I went every Tuesday for 10 years. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's the first thing I thought of, but I didn't think you guys are doing it anymore, so I didn't mention it. But for the newer viewers, it was a Tuesday luncheon group actually in Las Vegas with some names you would recognize from WagerTalk.com and also some pro bettors out there as well. And it was like a round table. So, yeah, it's the first thing I thought of, Teddy. That was closest you're going to get to a Wise Guy Weekly Conference, I think, was the Tuesday lunch bunch. And it was something that was pretty interesting to follow. By the way, if you want to see line moves like this, the ones I'm referencing, go to WagerTalk.com and check out the free live odds screen, the WagerTalk live odds screen. You can check all of these. You can click on the consensus for any game and see the line history. You can also do it at any book. And you can see exactly what Teddy and I are talking about, how this over-under has gone up and down and hovered around that 49 range all week. And I mentioned that because my free play on this game is on the total, and I'm going to make you search for it. You can either check Tuesday's edition of College Football Today, or check those standalone videos here for week 1 college football action as well. As Keddy gave you the side, I gave you the total in this Ball State Kentucky game on Saturday. All right, Teddy, let's get north of the board.
Steve.
Yeah.
I just want to throw in one of the new feature for the WagerTalk Live Lines page that I love. You can click on openers, and you can see the opening lines from all the different books. Instead of wondering where did it open, and we argue where is it open, you can literally see, just click opening line. You'll see the openers for every single book when they opened it. In my mind, that's a great feature you can take advantage of free every day at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further. Once again, you can click those individual books and see the timestamp of when those lines went live as well, because occasionally some of them are Monday, the others are Sunday, and some of them are offshores, which will have a very small limit, as you know, maybe like $100. So the consensus opener, they do a pretty good job with that, but you can individually click each book as well. As Teddy said, you can see them and then see exactly when they came out. And that's another fascinating thing for new bettors. Look at how they all kind of merge. One will be 2, one will be 4, and they'll all kind of find that sweet spot within 30 minutes or so, and they'll come to that consensus. And keep in mind, those opening numbers are very low totals. Very few people bet into them. So don't think just because a game goes from 2 to 4 that there was heavy action. You know, once again, could be just a couple groups moving that number on limited action. The book's moving it to try to get it to a consensus line. All right, it's a Prez free zone. It's been a great show nonetheless, but we still got to have our resident Canadian, Andrew McInnis, north of the border, is coming on. And we're going to, no, Teddy?
Oh, no, we have Andrew. We're going to do the BS question right here.
I'm sorry. I had that at the end of the show. So we'll save it to the end. I got Andrew. Right. Yeah, sounds good.
Do you want to come on and answer with me, Andrew? I thought it was a good question.
I would like that, actually. Yeah, I would like. Why don't we let's do the BS segment, because I don't have a great answer for this one. That's why I was saving it till the end. So, Andrew, I'm going to throw this out to Teddy and get your take on it as well, if you don't mind. So this is the question and answer segment, the BS segment, the better strategy segment for Thursday. And keep in mind, include your questions in the live chat below, on the live chat during the show, but more importantly, in the comments section below on YouTube after the show. We need questions. And we got one here from the Daily Pulse 3551. He wants to know about hitter-friendly or pitcher-friendly ballparks in Major League Baseball, and basically what makes a hitter-friendly park or a pitcher-friendly park. And besides the Green Monster, the elevation, you know, in Colorado, Coors Field, he mentions, or even the short left field in Yankee Stadium, most ballparks do have similar dimensions. So, Teddy, what do you look for, and are there some parks that you consider more hitter-friendly or pitcher-friendly, and what makes them that way?
The airflow. It's not about the elevation. I mean, sure, the Green Monster is there, and the elevation is there, and the short left porch is there for Yankee Stadium. And these stadiums do have relatively similar dimensions. But if you're playing at Petco or at Dodger Stadium or at Angel Stadium, the ball doesn't carry. And if you watch games every night and you see in the evening the wind's blowing in and the humidity keeps everything down, and those then become pitchers' parks. You compare that to Arlington, you know, or a PNC in Pittsburgh, or, you know, some of the other parks where the airflow tends to be much better and the ball tends to carry further. You look at Arizona at Chase Field. When the roof is open, the ball carries like crazy. When the roof is closed, it doesn't. And that's a legitimate difference. You'll see when the roof's open, money come on the over. It doesn't happen once they close it for the summertime. At Wrigley, when the wind is blowing in, all right, the money pours in on the under. And when it's blowing out, it pours in on the over, because the wind at Wrigley affects the flight pattern of the ball significantly. So what you see is airflow. That's what makes it a hitter-friendly or pitcher-friendly. And the only way you pick that up is by watching a lot of baseball over a lot of years. What do you think, Andrew?
This one caught me off guard a bit, but I'll tell you that one of the number one things I want to say is that a lot of times people don't realize, or they probably should, that this stuff is factored into a total, right? I mean, you see, these two teams are playing at Coors Field today. Yeah, well, there's a reason why the total's at 13, and I feel like bettors will get so excited to bet an over at Coors Field. They feel like they have some secret that none of us know about. Joke's on them. We all know about it, and so do the odds makers. But this isn't really, I would say that I would agree with you about the airflow and just weather in general. This might not be about, in general, the actual parks, but location still has to do with the parks. This year, more than any other year in baseball, guys, I have looked at the weather of the city that at every time. I haven't forgotten once. Especially, I've been a big team total guy. in MLB action this year. And if you're doing that, you want to know which way the wind's blowing. You want to know if it's going to be beneficial for you or work against you. I think a good example to look at some overreactions is my Toronto Blue Jays. I went to their home opener, guys, and I will tell you, their stadium this year looks a lot more hitter friendly than it did last year. Let's check their home and away numbers and see how much different they are. Not as much as people thought they would be at the start of the year. So certainly, I think there's definitely some benefits to looking at that stuff and certain locations that you can score more runs in. But I would kind of, hold the brakes and not get too carried away with it, because people were acting like the Jays were going to have like a dominantly better home record than away and scoring way more runs there. And that just didn't seem to be the case at the start of the season.
Yeah, and Andrew, it's ironic. Your Toronto Blue Jays are playing the Colorado Rockies starting tomorrow on Friday for a weekend series in Colorado. And I wanted to point out something else. I agree with airflow, Teddy, because like you said, most of the ballparks, the dimensions are pretty similar nowadays, except for like a freak big wall in Boston or the altitude in Colorado. But where you can find advantages, like you said, Andrew, you don't blindly play the over or the under in Colorado. By the way, the Rockies, 32 to the over, 32 to the under at home this season. Dead 500 after 64 games. But guess where you find the value? They're 39 and 27 to the under on the road. And I think that makes a lot of sense because they're not a good offensive team and their numbers become incredibly inflated at home. In fact, they're averaging 5 runs a game at home, about 4 runs a game on the road. It's 20% more at home just because of that altitude and thin air. So you find value actually by playing those phony offensive teams on the road to some unders. And that is, I think, a way to take advantage of unique ballparks like Colorado and maybe Boston as well. Red Sox averaging about a half a run more at home as well this season versus the road. So good question about baseball. We snuck a little MLB in there. We didn't have a lot today because there's so much football. So thank you, A Daily Pulse, for that question. And once again, we need one for Friday. Prez will be back tomorrow, so include it in the comments below here on YouTube, and Teddy and the Prez will get to it, Teddy.
We've got one for Friday, actually, already. We got a great follow-up on Twitter yesterday for something that Prez and I were talking about. And rather than do it today, I wanted to have me and Prez continue our discussion. So we pushed that one till tomorrow. But we'll answer our Twitter question, talk about how much of it is actually baked into the number when it comes to these totals. Looking forward to that.
And keep it. Well, I was going to say, Teddy, too, if we don't get to the questions, too, we answer them on YouTube. So ask away, and we'll give the answers as well in the chat below.
I have to say, Teddy, I like the way that you're good at saying you have an idea. Carmine on Puck Time always says that he knows I have something to say when I get closer and closer to the webcam. You have that little finger up, and I can tell that you have something to say. For me, it looks like my head's about to crash into my monitor. I'm ready to say something. I tell Carmine if I can't slack him, he knows. He sees me leaning in.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when we're in studio together. When we're all in different places, you got to kind of put your finger up so you can see, hey, get me next on the camera. Andrew, we got just a few minutes left, and I want to get into your 2 games, a pair of football discussions. We're going to talk about NFL teaser week 1, Packers and Browns. Talk to me about why you like that duo to tease on the opening weekend of the season.
Teddy, this is my first time doing a teaser on video, breaking down a teaser. Essentially, I'm doing 2 games, plus I have another game I have to break down, so I'm going to try and be short and simple with it. Week 1, looking at divisional underdogs seems to be a great idea in general, and then getting the opportunity to tease both these teams up past the touchdown mark, I think is great. I think that both these teams are going to be able to hang tight in their games respectively, if not upset outright. But looking at some of these matchups, the Packers over the last 3 to 4 years have dominated their matchup against the Bears. They have won by 7+ points against the Bears in 3 of the last 4 years. And looking at the Browns, their last 2 years against the Bengals, they are 3-1, and they have won by an average of 16.3 points in those games. Looking at Jordan Love, I think I might be the only person in the world that doesn't want a rookie and young quarterback to just be thrown into the mix. I actually like the idea of a guy to be able to sit on the sidelines, watch from a veteran quarterback, learn from them, and kind of just have that, now this is my time type of mindset. And not even just in week 1, but throughout the start of the season, they're facing some really weak pass rushing teams. Last year, the Chicago Bears ranked 2nd last in the league in sack percentage. They did not do a good job of getting to the quarterback. And I think that right now the Packers have a really good mix of running game and also some different threats offensively. Might be some new pieces that have to take on new, bigger roles, but I feel like they're capable of getting the job done. And the big thing I look at with Matt LaFleur's offense and this Packers team is time of possession. I heard you guys talking about it earlier in the week on WagerTalk Today with some teams, how fast they score. This is quite the opposite for this Packers team. They take a long time sometimes to march the field. And when a team's holding onto the ball a lot, when I'm getting this many points now with teasing them up, that makes me feel that much better knowing they'll have the ball that often. With the uncertainty of Joe Burrow and his health, and looking at the looking at the Browns, some of the pieces they picked up for sure, they added new guys, but I think there's a lot more continuity on the Browns side than there really is with their opponent. And I think that this is a team that is going to be happy to have had the quarterback, had a full training camp. There's been so many issues the past few years. Who's the starter? Who's number one guy? Suspensions, legal stuff. The run game will get going. I believe both teams can keep things close in the respective matchups.
So here's my question. And I could ask an equal question about the Cleveland-Cincinnati, but the Green Bay-Chicago one really stands out to me because we know the Packers have owned the Bears. We know they've owned them at Soldier Field. And it feels like if Chicago is going to get a win, they'll punch in that touchdown. They'll punch in that late score and that makes me nervous about taking Green Bay on the teaser line because I feel like either the Packers are going to win the game or they're going to get smacked. Do you share that same nervousness? I guess you don't because you like but how do you feel about my nervousness about that particular wager or that portion of the wager?
I understand it. And Teddy, I'm not a huge trends guy. You're not going to catch me going on shows very often and dating back to even a few years about stuff like that. But when I looked at that for the Packers, winning by how much they have over the last several games over the Bears, same thing for the Browns. People were shocked to know that. 3-1 last 4 years, average winning margin 16 points. Time of possession was a big thing for me. And that's a big thing I look at on teamrankings.com. There's so many great ranking stats there. The fact that they're going to have the ball for so long, their defense, I think, isn't going to be as troublesome as people think will be this year. I liked what they did last year to start the year. It was pretty much their backbone. And they finally have a healthy offensive line. So I believe they will be able to hang around. I wanted to take them, Teddy, to win the ball game, but I'm more comfortable in teasing them up and just seeing them being able to hang around.
Andrew McInnis, WagerTalk.com. And speaking of NFL divisional dogs in Week 1, if you'd like to know if they're a play on or play against situation, check out yesterday's show here on Wednesday, Wager Talk Today. Teddy covers, courtesy of Ralph Michaels, the chart master, tells you which way to go. Some good info there, and I'll tease that. Go back and watch the Wednesday episode of Wager Talk Today, big game breakdown style, as shows are archived 24/7 here on Wager Talk TV. And Andrew, we have to get our Canadian quota in for the day before we let you go, so give us a little CFL action.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And I wanted to mention that I have a package going right now. It is $100 off from the regular NFL season package. And we're throwing in the rest of the CFL season as well, which I'm on a 10-3 run in and 6-1 this year on 5% plays. I lost my very first 5% play of the season in CFL. Haven't lost one since. All the money spends the same. And if you get my NFL package, you'll be getting all my CFL plays as well in this package. This week is rivalry week in the CFL. It's always entertaining to watch. You've got Hamilton, you've got Toronto going head to head, but a 45-minute drive from stadium to stadium. Hamilton's coming off their best performance of the season. But guys, I'm not buying it. I'm not going to overreact from what I saw 1 week and carry that over into the next. Toronto has scored 30-plus in 5 of their last 6 games. Their offense is unbelievable. Both the run game and the passing game can create. Chad Kelly gets going on his feet, keeping the defense guessing. Hamilton played well, but I also think the BC Lions defense was not great last week either. We're seeing -8 here. I feel like this is generous. Like I said, when you got a team scoring 40 points, 32, 37, that's a team I want my money on against one of the most inconsistent and I think bottom of the league teams in the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Lay the points this weekend in the CFL with the Argos.
It's Andrew McInnis. And Andrew, as always, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. As you just saw right there, you get almost a 40% discount instantly right now when you get his NFL season, which includes sides, totals, and props. And he's including the CFL at a massive discount. So once again, go to WagerTalk.com right now. Get that Canadian/NFL combo package at nearly a 40% discount from Andrew McInnis. And Teddy, that'll do it for Thursday's show. The Prez will be back tomorrow on Friday. Thank you, as always, for having me as your co-host. I recommend people check out MLB First Pitch, which is on the channel right now. Also, College Football Today will be up later today on Thursday and Friday after 3 Eastern. And don't forget also those standalone Week 1 college football videos from numerous cappers as well here on WagerTalk TV. A great reason not only to give us a like, a quick thumbs up, leave comments below, but hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts when all these shows and videos go live all week long so that you are ready to attack college football Week 1, which starts tonight. Teddy, take us home.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again tomorrow, same time, same channel, right here on Wager Talk TV, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, you guys know what to do. Enjoy the games, and best of luck with all your wagers.